In the year 2142, the spaceship where Ellen Ripley fought against a xenomorph that wiped out her entire crew is scattered across space. In the remains of the Nostromo, a probe from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation finds the remains of said alien covered in something resembling a space rock. The specimen, believed to be dead, is extracted for experimentation by the evil corporation. In the space colony Jason Star, belonging to Weyland-Yutani, a young woman named Rain does slave labor, always accompanied by her brother Andy, who is a malfunctioning synthetic. She and many others have the same problem of pseudo-slavery, in addition to not having the resources to escape and leave the planet. Many are forced to extend their contracts, and there is a wave of discontent among the inhabitants. Her friends get in touch with Rain to explain that they have a very risky plan to escape the colony. This plan involves going to a company spaceship that is abandoned in the planet's orbit and stealing cryostasis chambers, which they would use to travel long distances, making it impossible to escape. However, they have the condition that her brother Andy be lent to them, as they hypothesize that being a synthetic from the company, he can open doors that require authorization. Rain refuses to lend Andy for such a dangerous adventure, but she is convinced by her ex-boyfriend Tyler, who tells her that what they are living is not life and they deserve a better future. In a tumultuous takeoff using the Corbelan 4 freighter, whose roughness is only surpassed by its unaesthetic interior design, they arrive at the abandoned ship. Admiring the beauty of outer space, they realize it is not an abandoned spaceship, but rather an abandoned scientific outpost resembling a space station. Once close, they manage to dock without much difficulty. The ones responsible for extracting the chambers are Bjorn, Tyler, and of course Andy, who acts as a master key, who effortlessly manages to open the doors of the scientific station. Chaos and disorder reign in the lonely ship, with the unfortunate drawback that the artificial gravity generator periodically malfunctions. The hopeful ones for their freedom arrive with some difficulty at the cryostasis chambers only to realize that they are practically empty. Undeterred, they head to a storage room that has fuel to fill the chambers. One of the 3 young women who stayed on the freighter starts to feel nauseous and dizzy due to a pregnancy and tells Rain not to tell her brother Tyler that she is pregnant. Navarro, the shaved girl, heads to Hatch 5, which is where the boys will exit, so she can be ready for their arrival. On their way to the warehouse, the 2 young men and Andy reach the station's control cabin. There, Bjorn finds an electric baton and makes a tasteless joke to Andy about frying his circuits, and Andy saves him from falling into a huge hole. After the scare, they reach the warehouse of the cryostasis chamber's fuel, unknowingly wanting to steal the tanks that keep hundreds of facehuggers in a state of suspension. When they try to remove the first tank, a security protocol is activated, and the door closes. Unfortunately, Andy doesn't have the rank to remove this security lock. The floor starts to fill with water from the cryostasis chambers of the facehuggers, and they begin to wake up one by one. In their desperation, the boys try to force the gates without success.
Rain and Navarro go down to help them. In the control room, Rain decides to use the identification chip of a synthetic that is lying on the floor and replace it with Andy's personal one. thus having the credentials to open the gate that has their friends trapped. Rain and Navarro arrive where the kids are and give them the chip to put on Andy. The synthetic remains static, looking up with blank eyes. Rain tells them not to worry, as it will restart in a minute with the new authorization credentials. However, the facehuggers start to break free, and without waiting long, they begin to attack. The fight for their lives is fierce. Bjorn's youth and reflexes help him avoid being impregnated by a monster. Desperate, Tyler electrocutes the facehugger with the electric baton, also knocking out Bjorn. Semi-conscious on the ground, Bjorn is about to be impregnated for the second time and is saved by Andy, who has already woken up. The synthetic finally manages to open the gate, but the crawling bugs come out too, and upon reaching the second gate, one of them lunges at Navarro and clings tightly to his face. Tyler and Bjorn, terrified, try to free her, but a completely different and fully functional Andy informs them that the facehugger is not killing her, rather, it is supplying her with air, though he does not know the reason for this action. He also informs them that all of his system has been updated. Rain, scared, tries to remove the chip but it doesn't let her, telling them that its database remains intact, so it completely doesn't recognize the creature, but it gives them the idea to reactivate the synthetic from which they removed the chip. Once the synthetic named Rook wakes up, he only brings bad news, warning them that they must run out of the facility as they can't do anything for the girl. They refuse to accept this fact and ask him what that monster is doing with Navarro. Rook, without hesitation, tells them that the facehugger is impregnating a seed in her, and that soon it will be expelled from her body, directing his gaze towards the ceiling where a dead xenomorph is trapped.
Rain comes up with the idea that if they freeze the base of the tail of the facehugger, it wouldn't be able to suffocate Navarro and thus release her. Everyone agrees with her and proceeds to execute the plan. Once freed, Rook gives them a cold shower by informing them that they have a 60 to 40% chance against Navarro that the creature has managed to impregnate her. Andy tries to prevent Navarro from leaving the station and reaching the colony, but he is electrocuted by Bjorn and tries to take his stepsister to the cargo ship. Andy gets back up and pursues the siblings, but only Navarro manages to reach the cargo ship and uncouples it from the station. However, Navarro starts experiencing unbearable pain and, with a futuristic scanner, sees a strange entity trying to emerge from his chest. Kay, Tyler's sister, unable to do anything, watches as Navarro convulses and presses a lever on the cargo ship, losing control.
A baby xenomorph emerges from Navarro. The Corbelan crashes into the Romulus hangar. And Rain and Tyler, with Andy's help, head to the hangar. However, on the way, they must cross through an area full of facehuggers. Andy informs them that these creatures are blind and hunt their hosts by sensing body temperature and movement. To go unnoticed through the room, they match the room's temperature with their own and proceed to cross stealthily.
Kay, alone and scared, begins the search for her friends and is found by Bjorn. The reckless young man sees something resembling a chrysalis with a strange shape and decides to introduce the electric baton into it, thinking that it would end the creature. However, he ended up dying from a liquid expelled by the xenomorph, dissolving his body with acid. Desperate, Kay tries to flee the horrific scene, but to her misfortune, the xenomorph emerges fully developed. Stunned, she runs without taking her eyes off the monster and falls terribly several meters to the ground. Meanwhile, the facehuggers have detected Tyler's group and they are forced to run with all their might. They miraculously slip away and continue on their way to the hangar.
In another location, Kay wakes up in pain and reaches a hatch for which she has no authorization to open. Just then, her brother and the others arrive where she is. They order Andy to open the hatch, but he realizes that the xenomorph is lurking there, and if he opens the door, the monster could enter and eliminate them all. Anguish takes over Tyler and he begs Andy to open the hatch, ignoring the synthetic's explanations and warnings. The xenomorph pierces through Kay's body and takes the poor pregnant woman away. Heartbroken, they continue their way to the hangar, arriving at a Romulus laboratory. Andy finds a synthetic sample of the black liquid extracted from the xenomorphs, which Rook calls the Prometheus strain. Andy, under new orders to do only what benefits the company, is in charge of successfully delivering these samples to Weyland-Yutani. Rook maliciously does not tell them that this miraculous compound, which would help humanity evolve, is actually incomplete and causes horrendous transformations in humans. Before departing, they arm themselves with automatic rifles. They arrive at a passage that has been completely transformed into a xenomorph den, and Andy recommends going another way. Once ready to retrace their steps, Tyler hears his sister's cries for help and rushes to her aid. They find hundreds of victims in a horrendous corridor and finally reach Kay, freeing her from her viscous prison and noticing that she is lethally injured and very likely won't survive. Andy, deceived by Rook, offers them the sample of the compound thinking it would save her. When Tyler is about to inject it, Rain stops him, saying it would be better to take her to the cargo ship and cryogenically freeze her until they reach the colony, where she can be treated with traditional medicine. A horde of xenomorphs is stalking them, and they flee with the convalescent Kay. Tyler is impaled by an alien's tail, and Andy is struck by that action, causing a blue screen of death. Rain, with great effort, arrives and activates the cargo elevator, escaping with Kay. An overwhelming remorse floods Rain's thoughts upon seeing Andy convulsing on the floor. She tells Kay to head to the cargo ship and get into a cryopod. Rain returns for Andy, and once Rain is gone, Kay injects the synthetic sample.
Rain reaches Andy and replaces Windows with Linux, bringing the obsolete team back to life. They run to escape the horde, but now Andy, unable to open doors, finds themselves trapped in a dead-end path. Rain deactivates gravity and shoots the aliens mercilessly, using up all the ammo. Now it's time to juggle to avoid being touched by the xenomorph's blood. They reach the elevator that is out of service and, with the help of a lack of gravity, try to reach the top. But before they get there, gravity is restored and Rain falls into the void but is rescued by a xenomorph, with the intention of impregnating her with a facehugger that is nearby.
Andy rescues her with the rifle that Rain dropped before falling. They manage to reach the cargo ship before the Romulus crashes into the planet's rings. Rook finally dies without being able to fulfill his primary mission. Already ready to depart for the planet Ivaga, Kay begins to have health complications. Inside the cryocapsule, Rain, upon taking it out, realizes that her belly has grown excessively and she is about to give birth. A horrendous and disgusting embryo comes out of her. Shocked, Rain wants to get rid of that thing, but she gets burned by the acid it releases, creating a hole and falling through it. The system stops the ship and begins to descend slowly towards the planet's rings. Rain, in search of the creature to exterminate it, realizes it has grown too quickly.
Andy finds Kay dying, but before he can help her, a gigantic, nightmarish creature arrives, injures Andy, and consumes her mother, Kay.
Rain arrives and tries to freeze the monster, but her weapon is knocked to the ground by a swipe from the creature. This causes the freezing gas to almost eliminate Rain, freezing her, and she flees from the fight to put on a protective suit. The hybrid between human and xenomorph, known as the Descendant, pursues Rain, unaware that the young woman is trying to release the cargo with him. Unable to activate the lever to release the cargo, she uses the acid contained in the embryo where the Descendant was born. It dissolves the floor and both fall into the void, but miraculously she is held by a cable that miraculously was not dissolved. The Descender tries to kill Rain, but she manages to release the load with the monster and dies in the rings of Jackson. She places Andy in a chamber, promising him that she will repair him, and leaves a record in the ship's voice log, setting course for the Ivaga system, remaining in a capsule in cryostasis.